Good morning again. I realized in my excitement this morning, I failed to introduce myself. So in case there's someone here who does not know me, my name is Venu Alagh, and I am a practitioner here at the Center for Spiritual Living. Before we go into today's talk, I'd like us all to just maybe take a nice deep breath together. So let's inhale and release. How about we do that one more time? Let's inhale and release. Just knowing that we leave all our worries and concerns at the door this morning, that we're here fresh and new, that anything that came with us from the night before, from a hectic morning getting here, all of that can just be settled down, that we can be present. This is a gift. It's a gift to me, and it is a gift to yourselves, right? This is time for yourself to just be, to go within, to listen to something that may touch you, that may uplift you. So today's topic, as you all know, that if you've been here, the month of April, we've been talking about the practice of becoming. We've explored this practice through various modes. First week, it was through deep awareness and understanding. Then Andrea took us through the art of becoming through our shared vulnerabilities. Last week, we explored getting there through the act of stillness, shutting out the external noise of the world. And this week, we get to explore my favorite topic, which is through a greater commitment to love. The actual CSL talk title was a daily commitment to love. That felt a little restrictive to me. We have enough daily commitments. I fail at checking off a lot of those on a daily basis. I didn't want to add more pressure. But if we can say a greater commitment to love, then it's just a touch point for our awareness. It's a touch point when we forget. But before I get started, there's a really important question. What is this thing we call love? I'd like to invite you for a moment to just close your eyes and think of this word. Just think of the word love. And think of what comes to mind when you hold that word in your heart space. And when you feel ready, go ahead and open your eyes. And I'm sure this word means something different for each person here this morning. Some people think of that word and think of romantic love. They may be thinking about their spouse, their partner. Others may think of their child or their parent. And yet others may be thinking about their kitten, their puppy, their fur babies at home. And still others will think about nature, a favorite hiking trail, the oceans crashing against the shore. And all of these things are beautiful. All of these things are beautiful, and love is so much more. According to Ernest Holmes, love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. It is the very reason for our being. Love is the sole impulse for creation. No one can swing out into the universal without love, for the whole universe is based upon it. The whole universe is based upon it. That line, I love, he's such a poet. I love him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That line, you cannot swing out into the universe without, I picture like a baseball, I'm not even a sports person, but I picture a baseball player swinging out. That ball will hit love. We may not always see it, but it's there. We may not always remember it, but it is there. He also says, love points the way and the law makes the way happen. Love points the way. What exactly does this mean? If you're familiar with our teachings here, the law is that part of the universe that responds to us. It is the creative substance that responds to our thoughts, to our ideas. What we put into that substance is what we see. We may not always want to take responsibility for that. It may even be unbelievable, unfathomable. I think we only begin to trust it when we see it, when we practice it, when we recognize it, when we stop thinking everything is controlled, everything I feel here is controlled by the external. When we start saying, oh, if I settle in to my body, if I find peace within me, I become a little more peaceful. I mean, we can wait for that annoying coworker to change. We can wait for our child to do what we tell them to do. We can spend all our lives waiting for other people to change so we feel better. But what feels easier? What feels more powerful, more engaging? What gives us more agency? The idea that we can actually shift our own thinking and shift our own outer perceptions. So love points the way. Now, this is the part that I love. It's not just that there's this creative substance in the world. Love points the way. That means if I am aligned, if I allow myself to be guided by the truth that I am one with all that is, that I can create my life, then what expresses outwardly will reflect that. Now, we don't have to listen. No one's forcing us. This is just a tool. This is just a tool to make our lives a little easier, right? So, each day we have a choice to live with greater commitment to love. And this is where science of mind, it just becomes really practical. It teaches us something really simple, that what we align with, we express. So when we consciously choose love, we're not forcing something unnatural. We're actually becoming who we already are. We already are this. We're already this. So, Rumi talks about that too. All the mystics actually say, all the mystics talk about what we think of as learning is really a remembering. We've just forgotten. Babies come into this world, and they are so adorable, and they usually smell really good, and they're playful, and they're the sounds they make, and their little hands and feet. And we don't look at them and say, this one is going to grow up and be a really horrible person. Or this one is going to grow up and rob a bank. Or this one is going to treat their loved ones really poorly. They come in pure essence. Pure essence. And then we start growing up. And we start acting in certain ways. And then the world tells us that is wrong. And the world puts more rules on us. And some of these individuals growing up, maybe their essence is not okay with those rules. And then there's judgments piled on. And then we become these humans who have forgotten who we are. Then we become these humans who have forgotten who we are. I'd like to share a story with all of you, and I'll give you something pretty to look at while I share this story. So, about 12 years ago, I went to Scotland for the summer. I went by myself. I had this opportunity to stay in this cute little house in this really small town in the southern borders. It was an hour and a half away from Edinburgh by bus. And mind you, I didn't know a soul there. But I was 12 years younger and more adventurous, and took my laptop and my books and my journals, and I thought, oh, this will be just a perfect writing retreat. But what I didn't count on is that I was really far away from everything I knew. So the first week I was there, I was feeling really jet-lagged, and I was a little disoriented. And honestly, I was really lonely. I was surprised by this because I'm pretty independent. but I was really lonely. And I realized I'm pretty isolated out here. And I started questioning why I went. I was this close to getting a ticket to go back home by like day 9 or 10. I was like, Venu, you made a mistake. The next day, I came across a flyer for a local bagpipe competition at the park around the corner from me. I think it was high schools, I don't remember, but a local bagpipe competition, like things you say only in Scotland, right? So I said, I'm going to go to this thing because here I am complaining about how lonely I am and how, okay, Venu, take yourself out. Go meet people. So I went, and it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be to meet people because it was a smaller town. I stood out like a sore thumb. People were like, who is this? Like, where are you from and why are you here? You know? And, you know, they were polite, but no one engaged me, so I would still be there like, okay, I'm by myself. Until this one woman. I met this one woman, and she was just a ball of love. She was engaging, talking to me. She was like, oh, you're here by yourself, and isn't your family worried? You're all the way out here in Scotland by yourself in this little house. And within minutes, she invited me to go to a coffee shop with her and her family afterwards. And I joined them because why wouldn't I? I put out into the universe, like, I need to meet people. I need to connect. I didn't realize this at the time, obviously. I wasn't like, yes, this worked. But looking back, I got exactly what my deepest desire was, which is I don't want to feel alone here anymore. So we went to this coffee shop, and we hit it off. So much so that they actually became my touch point there throughout the rest of my stay. It actually turned out we had the same exact birthday. Her mom joined us. The three of us had the same birthday. They were squealing. They asked me when my birthday was. I thought they meant birth date. I think she just wanted to know how old I was, but I said it, and they both started squealing, and we became an instant family, right? But like the love didn't end there. The next day, she knew where I was staying because when I mentioned, she said, oh, I know the house next door. My friend lives there. The next day, I opened the front door, and there's a jar of wildflowers on the doorstep with a card that says, you now have friends here. Tell your family not to worry. Tell your family not to worry, because she was concerned for my family who she's never met all the way across the world. And I just felt, oh, thank you. She had mentioned where she worked during the day. She was working part-time at a pharmacy, so I went by to thank her. And from then on, here and there, maybe once a week, we'd go for a walk, a meal. And one day, she said, you haven't really seen me. I would go out to Edinburgh by myself, take the bus out there once a week, and it was great. It just shifted because we didn't even see each other that often, but I felt safe. I felt cared for. I felt there's someone here that in case of an emergency, I know someone now, right? And then one day, she's like, we need to take you sightseeing. Like, you haven't seen enough of our beautiful Scottish borders. So they took me out about an hour away. One of our kids joined us as well, and it was this gorgeous beach. And we sat there and picnicked, and then after that, she took us to this forest. She took us to this magical forest, and I actually came across this picture. I didn't know I was going to use this for this talk. I came across it in my phone the other day. And what I want to share with you today is, when I look at that picture, I think first image, obviously, enchanted forest. It's beautiful. But for me, more than that, that is love in action. I remember that these people who are once strangers took in a random girl as part of their family, made sure she felt safe, she felt cared for, she felt connected, wanted her to explore. And that's the kind of love I'm talking about. That is love in action. That is love that you cannot expect, but that will show up when you least expect it. So, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? We go to the question. That's why slides help. So in our day-to-day lives, right, we may not be able to meet a stranger and take them in, but we can check in with ourselves. When we are in a place where we don't feel as good about the situation as we'd like, or as comfortable about a circumstance as we like, there's a question we can ask. We can ask, What would love do? What would love do? In this moment, in this conversation, in this situation, what would love do? I don't know about you guys, but I remember in the 90s, it was really popular. They had bumper stickers. It said WWJD. Yeah, right? That was Jesus, also, Christ consciousness, love. But I think about this. What if we had bumper stickers that said this? If every single person had a bumper sticker that said this? Then maybe the guy who cut me off the other day and I was like, maybe if he had this, I would have not reacted as poorly as I did. And here's the thing, that actually brings me to another point that I was going to mention later, but I'll just mention now, which is we're not always going to be these gorgeous, glittery love bugs. We can't. We're human beings. We're going to hit up against circumstances and people that trigger us, that rouse something within us. But here's what we can do. We can come back to that space. So I did get really upset that day in my car, and I did use some words I'm not allowed to use here today. But you know what happened that was different? I didn't carry that anger to me to my destination. I actually laughed at myself. I found myself laughing at myself, going, all right, okay, that wasn't very aligned, but we're not always going to be aligned because we won't always be able to touch this question in that moment. But what if you're suffering with something for days, weeks, months? There's space for that question. You don't have to suffer that long. I don't have to suffer that long. I forget to ask that question. But it's one we can, again, come to again and again. Because love isn't just a feeling. We think it's a feel like, love is that thing I feel when I see a butterfly. Love is that feeling when the person I'm attracted to flatters me. We think of these things as love. But love is also a choice. Love is also a choice. I can choose in this moment to show up more loving than I was in the previous moment. I can also choose not to. That's up to me. What does love look like? It can look like patience, presence, small intentional acts. Love can also look sometimes like something we did not expect it to look like. Sometimes love is saying no. Sometimes love is holding a boundary. Sometimes, I'm going to say it, sometimes love is even walking away. Because sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves and for the other person is to let go. And that's not an easy one for us to swallow. It's not an easy one for me to swallow, I'll tell you that. I was raised to believe that loving people stay. That loving people don't walk away. That if I were truly a loving human being, then I would make whatever this situation is work. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. Also, then I beat myself up because I didn't fix the situation, so therefore I'm not loving enough, I'm not kind enough. That brings me to the most important part of the greater commitment to love. I actually had on Friday night I was reviewing my notes, and I was like, I'm done, no more looking at it. And then I had this aha, you left out the most important part of this conversation, which is, do I love myself? Because I've spent my whole life making sure I love you and you and you and you, because I want you all to love me. But do I love myself? And what does that look like? Being more compassionate with ourselves? Being more gentle with ourselves? Forgiving ourselves? I mean, who here has not made a mistake in their life? Who here has not had an unloving thought or action in their life? Just for those who cannot see behind them, there is not a single hand raised in this place. Right? Again, we're human. We're human. We are one, but we come into this world called Earth. We live in this world of duality. We live in this world of contrast. We experience contrast to experience the other side. If I did not know what sadness were, I would not know what joy was. If I did not know what misery was, I would not know what ecstatic love was. So this is just part of the human experience. This is part of the human experience. And how we love ourselves shapes how we love others. We may not see it, but it shows. You can have the most loving person in your life, and if they go home and beat up on themselves every single day, what you're getting is not a true, authentic alignment of love. You're getting what they think you need from them. I would rather have someone love themselves deeply and not give to me than to give to me and not love themselves deeply. And that's something I'm still learning, still teaching myself. This whole self-love thing, I've been hearing it for decades, but I've only been practicing it for a couple of years. And I'm still practicing. As Ginny said, it's all a practice. None of this is done. We're never done. What does Abraham Hicks say? We never get it done. We never get it done. So when you find yourself in these situations where you question yourself or question the other, just ask yourself, not what should I do, but what would love do? And maybe it'll just nudge you in a certain direction. Maybe it'll say, don't respond to that text right now. Wait a breath. Maybe it'll say, keep your mouth shut right now. Sit with it. And if you're still pissed off in 20 minutes, maybe, or an hour, maybe, but maybe not now. Because usually when we give ourselves that space, things shift. We may still feel the same way about that thing or that person, but we may not feel reactive anymore. We may be able to see the other side. Because that's also really important. I'm pretty sure love would see from a higher space. My roommate teacher used to talk about being on top of our pyramid. When you're on top of the pyramid, you can see everything. Your perspective isn't limited. When we're down on the lower part of the pyramid, all you can see is what's around you. So sometimes we need to step outside ourselves. We don't have to agree with the other person. We don't have to agree with what's going on. I know some of you sitting here are probably saying, there's a lot of unloving things happening in the world right now, and there are some people who are doing some really unloving acts right now. I'm reminded of what Mother Teresa said. If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten we belong to each other. If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten we belong to each other. When people act unlovingly, it's usually because we're closed off. We're closed off to protect ourselves. We're closed off because we're judging. We're closed off because we don't want to be judged. When we act in unloving ways towards one another, we forget that we are one. We're in separation. We're in lack or fear or greed, grabbing, wanting, not sharing, not recognizing there is actually enough for every single person on this planet. That is a place of separation. That is not alignment. And again, I said, what if we all had a bumper sticker like this? What if every single person in this world woke up in the morning and said, let me get aligned first. I don't do it every morning, let me tell you. But I'd like to. I'd like to do it more often than I don't. But what if? I don't want to digress, but there is this thing called the tipping point. So if enough people got into alignment, if enough people, we don't need the whole world to get into alignment, just that tipping point, just enough to cause a shift. And honestly, I know it may not appear so right now, but I feel it's happening. I do. And that's the world I want to live in, right? I don't want to live in doom and gloom. I don't care what the news says. I don't care what my friends tell me. I'm not in denial. It's not the world I want to live in, so I'm not going to put my energy there. Because it's whatever is happening is happening. And then I get to choose how I want to spend my day. I get to choose where I want to put my energy. I'd rather put my energy in love. I'd rather put my energy in becoming a better version of myself. I'd rather put my energy in connecting, community, sharing, loving, gathering, being joyous with one another. Let's take a moment to anchor into this idea. Because this practice of love is the practice of becoming. I have an affirmation that CSL shared that I really thought was lovely. If you feel comfortable, I invite you to read this affirmation with me. I practice love consciously, and in that act, I reveal my true nature. Just let that settle in. Because love is not something outside of us, it's what we return to again and again, until we remember it is what we already are. So let's just go within for a moment. Knowing right here, right now, there is but one mind, one presence, one all that is. This oneness is flowing to, through, and as each and every one of us this morning. Knowing that we are all a unique and perfect expression of all that is. A unique and perfect expression of that gorgeous, glittery God stuff we call life, we call source, we call love. Trusting that love points the way, bring us back into alignment again and again. And in that remembering, we continue our becoming, grounded in love, anchored in truth, rooted in gratitude. It is with this deep appreciation I release these words to the law that always says yes. Knowing it is all done, knowing it is all love, together we say, and so it is.